Welcome to the Mission Papers. Today we're going to talk about painting up a TY7 Devilfish. Let's go down to Tabletown. Alright, so here we are at Tabletown, and the first thing I'm going to do is have it sub-assembled. Most of it is actually assembled, the ship itself, and I kind of sealed it in. Right now, I'm going to put some primer on it. I do like to use Steiner Res primer, and that's from Badger. I love that it's self-leveling, and it is so easy to work with. I really do like the product. And then I'm going to go over it with white. What? White over black? Yeah, if you want to do it, you could bring it up in gradients and you'll have these nice gray areas where you have some kind of weathering. Now, you have the option to do the weathering that way, a little bit of glowing effects on the panels if you'd like to, but what I went was a stark white. Now, I did do some masking, and I like silly putty for masking, and I'm going to show you how it works. Now, you take some silly putty, you put it into the crevices you want to remain black, since I painted it black first, and then with some silly putty, I'm going to pull it off, and there you get a basis of that. I really do love working with silly putty because it really does conform to irregular surfaces. Now, does it come out perfect? Absolutely not. You do need to get some brush work in there to get the little lines here and there, but overall, I think it looks absolutely fantastic for an easy way to have quick contrast from black to white. All right, so next up, what we're doing here is going to hit it a little bit with something I really do love to use is AK Interactive Matte Varnish. Love the stuff. Love this stuff. I used to use Tester's Dull Coat. Actually, I decanted it, which means I took it from the actual can and I took the liquid out and then I could put it through the airbrush. So that's what I did for Dull Coat. And I've been using that for a while and it worked out really well. But ever since AK Interactive came out with their stuff, man, that stuff is liquid gold. All right, so today what we're doing here is we're going to be painting Mechanica Standard Gray, which is very limited color palette for my Tau. It is the basic box art kind of color palette that I went with. Now, when it comes to painting this gray, since you're painting it on there, you do not want to see any of the brush marks. So what you have to realize is that you cannot be afraid of going light and doing multiple coats. Now, Duncan Rhodes always said 2 thin coats. But I do several coats, sometimes 3, 4, 5, it just depends. And, you know, as you're doing light coats, the less brush strokes you're going to see. It's going to really come out great. Now, sometimes I do love the brush, but know that it is very watery there. And so the first time I lay it down, don't be afraid to see like little blotches. It's going to look blotchy, and that's fine. But by the 3rd, 4th coat, it really starts looking great. But you do have to make sure that the prior layer completely dries before you put on the next layer. If not, you risk taking up some globs of paint that's half dry, and then it'll look absolutely not even. It'll actually create a texture to it. You'll have like a little eye hole. Yes, eye hole. Because that's where you pulled up the half drying paint. It's just a bad situation. You don't want to do that. At that point, I would sand it down and then start over with primer and build it back up again. I mean, nothing that you cannot, you know, fix, but, you know, really. And if you really were in a hurry and whatnot, you could sand out just the area and repaint the white area there, masking off the other areas. And this way you could just start over and press the reset button. Okay. All right. So Mechanica Standard Gray is the theme for this. So I do a lot of little bits with the Mechanica Standard Gray. So if you are doing, I think it's Viola, right? If you're doing a Viola army, Mechanica Standard Gray is your friend. I do like that it does come out evenly, but you do, again, it's going to come out blotchy at first and you need to be okay with that. But in the end, it comes out pretty smooth, as you can see right here. All right. And I'm just going to continue going. There's so many different areas that I hit with this Mechanica Standard Gray. Now, if you go a little bit over, that's okay. You can touch it up with a little bit of white. And I'm using Steiner Res white primer, so it's just really readily available. And I do like Steiner Res white primer because it is self-leveling. So that means as you paint it on, it'll flatten out for you. I love that stuff. I really, and that's why I made it for the basis of my army. Now, I hate painting white, but I'm painting an entire Tau sept that is in white. So listen, when you're afraid of doing something, all right, You gotta forge through it. You know, paint boldly. Like one of my mentors, Matt DiPietro, says, paint boldly. I live by these standards. If something scares you, then attack it. If non-metallic metal scares you, you're not gonna get any better at something you're not practicing. So practice it. Get some models out. Get some additional models out. And just go for it, you know, because what's the worst that can happen? You learn something new and you mess up one of the models and then you repaint it, you know, just press the reset button, you know, simple green or power clean, and just get that sucker out and do it again. All right. Stynylrez brush primer, just cleaning up some of the edges, adding some things to it. You're going to see that this is just straight primer that I'm using, and I'm really just getting in there and dumping it in because it's a recessed area for that vent there. So it's a lot of fun to do because I'm literally painting with primer. Like, you would think, oh, wow, he's using all these paints. Now, make no mistakes, I have a lot of paints. I have 2 store racks of paints. I bought so many paints, the store just gave me the rack. It's not that I don't have 20,000 different, not so big. I have like 13 different kind of whites paints, from heavy body acrylic. Okay, acrylic. I'll be all right. English. But still, you know, I have all these different kinds of whites, and I've tried it all, and I don't like white. I don't like painting with white. And that's because, you know, they took the lead out of the paint. What? Yes, there used to be lead in white paint. It used to be creamy smooth, but if you started licking your brush, no bueno. That's not good for you, right? So they actually switched the bonding agent to a talc, like a powder, right? So that's why white usually comes out chalky. Yeah, and it's difficult to work with. It doesn't work like your other paints. I'm going to continue painting with this black primer, just doing some details. Notice that I am just focusing on the brush, trying to do that brush control. If you struggle with brush control, the only way you're going to get better at it is practice. You know, steady your hand by bracing it, and practice. Get into the groove. Everybody has their own hand positionings that they're most comfortable with. So I play around with a whole bunch of different hand positionings, just depending on the situation. As you can see there, I'm actually hoisting up the hoist. I like that word, hoist. I'm hoisting up the model with those little nail barb things. So whatever you use to balance and get the right angle, use at your disposal. You have a lot of stuff going on. If you're a hobby enthusiast like I am, you have boxes of stuff and all kinds of little things. Get the angle that's the most comfortable for you. Brace your hand and go for it. All right, time for just painting the black in. And once I paint the black in, I guess you can call this, I don't like to say batch painting because I'm not painting a whole bunch of models, but if I'm going black, I'm going to go and try to do all the black that I can on the model, on this one model, right? I'm going to go around the whole entire area, so this way I don't have to keep on pouring out black and conserve the paint where I can. So now it's black, so I am going all the black. I'm doing the underside, even though most people don't look at the underside. I've decided to actually lift the base. I wanted to use a taller pole so you can actually see the base. Usually you have the short pole, and that's that clear plastic pole that goes in the middle to hold it up. Yeah, so it turned out to be like a bobblehead, so when I put it down, it goes a little bit. So it's kind of a little bit weird. I don't know what to do with that. So if you're deciding, the warning, if you are deciding to go with a taller pole, then be careful with the bobblehead syndrome. All right, so time for some edge highlighting. Now, edge highlighting can be a lot of different things. You could do a light blue, but I do like to mix ink with it and flow improver. I do want the flow improver. I want the paint to flow off the brush, not completely dry. Sometimes I put in slow dry and flow improver. So this way I can leave the paint on the brush, in the belly of the brush, and using the side of the brush, not the tip of the brush, I'm trying to get the straight edges so I can do the edge highlighting. It's very important that you don't overload your brush. Okay, super important you don't do that, because if you do that, it runs all over the place because you have flow improvers. So it's going to flow out of the brush, right? So you just have to be very careful with that, using the side of the brush and not the tip of the brush, and it'll give you a lot more control. Now, the thing about painting over black is it's super simple when you're doing edge highlighting, because if you make a mistake, you just go in with black and cover it up, and again, Stynylrez black primer is self-leveling, so it just levels out and meshes in well. You can actually paint over, if you overdo it just a little bit, Yeah, you can literally just do the lines around it and clean it up. That's all it is. It's just going like reverse engineering. Instead of doing the edge highlighting, you did the edge highlighting, and now you're doing the black around the edge highlighting. So that's why I do like to paint black when I'm doing edge highlighting with black. Because of that. But this is a solid black. I could do a gradient with black. If you want to do a gradient with black, you can. You would have to use a gray, like a really dark gray, and then a semi-tone gray. And then the really, really edges, you would do a really light gray. That's all it is. And it'll simulate white, you know, because if you look at anything that's black, it reflects white little bits back to you. What? Yes, it does. But Rob, black is the absence of color. Yes, it is. But we don't live in a void. If we lived in a void, then yes, this is true. There is no blacker black than the black, right? But since we have all the colors around it, it influences black. Now, this black t-shirt is black. It has non-reflective surfaces. But look at a reflective surface that's painted in black. Shine a light on it and tell me you don't see, like you see on the top of my head, see that glow mark? Boom! Right? Shine. You're going to see a shine back. So, you know, any surface that is like kind of doing that will have that shine. So if you want to make something shiny that is black, yeah, you got to do the gray tones all the way up to just about white. Now, again, going into the edge highlighting, and edge highlighting, I'm just going to go through all the edge highlighting so you can see all the pieces. I paint in sub-assembles. You're going to notice that I sub-assembled this back piece right there. And these are the engine compartments. Man, such a fun build. These are the engine compartments, and I just sub-assemble. I have a lot of different things. I'll show you later. I have two models, two kits that I'm actually sub-assembling right now. Well, one kit, it's a Battle Force box, but I have 2 units that I'm sub-assembling right now, and I'm going to show you what that looks like for me. A lot of people say I'm a bit excessive with my sub-assemblies, but I do what's comfortable for me so I can make sure I can get into every recess and every part of the model effectively. I always think, what can I assemble and get away with being able to turn it in every single angle, every single direction, that it's not awkward when I paint. I don't paint to get it done and over with. I paint because I enjoy painting and I love to see it in my cabinet. It's mostly display models, although sometimes I want to get it done, but at the same time, you know, I don't want to do a poop job of it. You know, if I know I can do better, then I look at something, I want to do something I'm proud of. But you have to know as a modeler when to say, okay, this is enough, right? Because perfection, like my buddy Vince Venturella says, perfection is the opposite of done. It just is. You'll never reach perfection, so you'll never finish a piece, no matter what it is that you're doing. So yeah, perfection is the opposite of done. At some point, you're gonna have to say, yeah, I'm happy with this. All right. Always be happy with things, just don't be satisfied with them. Right? Okay. Because if you want to push yourself to the next level, I guess that's like ebb and flow, right? You want to get better, but at the same time, you got to know which piece you're going to push yourself with. I'm going to push myself to be a better painter with this model or not, right? So I'm putting it together, and it's coming together fresh and clean, crisp and buttery smooth. This is exactly what I want to go for when it comes to white, because again, very tricky, but airbrush is your friend when it comes to white. I know Caleb Wisenbach, another artist, CK Studios, amazing artist. He says, I don't paint white, I airbrush it, period. Like, I agree with that. I'm totally down with that. But you can see most of the video is not airbrushing. It's actually painting. All right, next I'm doing a oil wash, a pin wash, and I'm using a stick pen. So yeah, I'm using a stick pen so I can get in there and just get into the recesses. And it works really well. If you're not sure about using this stuff, you need mineral spirits and some, I use Winsor & Newton oil-based paint, and then I mix it together in a cup, right? And then I have it, and I could do the recess watches like that. I usually do it for all my stuff. Now here I'm going to do some lenses, so you see the colors that I use there. Amaranth blue. So you need a dark blue. I like to use dark Prussian blue, and you're going to see me wet blend here. It does take, I go back and forth because I'm a little bit meticulous when it comes to my lenses. Sometimes. This one I really wanted to do that. So I'm doing the dark Prussian blue. Then you need a mid-tone blue. I'm using Amaranth blue from Fantasy and Games, but you can use any blue that's similar to that, like a mid-tone blue. And then a light blue. Now I'm using War Colors Blue 3, and that is a super light, like sky blue, but you can use Vallejo Muddle color if you want to. The same effect. I'm using gel medium because it's a little easier, I find, to actually blend on the model itself. Like I'll throw it in there, and what I'm doing is I'll put the paint on there, and it's kind of thick, and then I start wiping off the paint, and whatever's left behind is the blend. Crazy, right? All right, so usually when you think about painting, it's an additive process where you have to put in one layer, and then you can put in another layer, and then another layer, right? But with this process, with gel-based medium, it's pretty cool because you kind of like put the paint on there and start mixing it around. You see canvas painters, people that paint these portraits and stuff like that, they're ultra realistic. They slap some paint on their canvas and then they start mixing it around right on the canvas. They don't mix it on the palette. Sometimes they mix it on the palette, but most of the time they're mixing straight on the canvas, right? So if the masters like Leonardo da Vinci, right? Rembrandt, right? The masters, right? If they do it that way, I mean, what's stopping you from trying it? And it's like, that method has been around longer than we've all been living. So, I mean, if you've been alive and you met, Leo, oh my gosh, wow. Okay, you're actually not human, but there you go. So you're gonna see that I keep on wiping my brush off. Like I add a layer and then I wipe it. I make a mistake there. I'm gonna clean that sucker up with a little bit of water. Now you can actually use that as a glow if you want to, but I decided to paint over it and not make it a glow. But you can make it glowing. A little bit of like that, when you wipe off, it can actually turn into a little bit of a glazing because you're actually taking it off. And gel-based mediums, I find that you don't need to add stuff to glaze it. Like usually when you're painting with acrylic paint, right, or miniature paint, if you put too much water in there, yeah, it's gonna have like, the chemical in the water, the chemical in the paint actually is so diluted that it starts breaking apart. And that's why you put an additive in there. I'm getting scientific. Put an additive in there so this is where the bonding engine takes together. If not, what you do is you get these tide marks because the water actually separates at the last possible minute and all the color goes to the edge and then dries to a nice little circle. You don't want that, right? So with gel-based medium though, if you throw a whole bunch of water in there, I mean, you thin that sucker on, you can make a glaze just straight with water. I've used it that way and it's worked out fabulously. All right, still wet blending. You see this? Additive process. At any point in time, if you're satisfied with the way that lens look and you're trying this for yourself, stop right there and say, you know what, this is darn good. I just did. All right, time for some accent. Now, time for the red dot. That's how I have there. I am using Mephiston red, starting with that, and then I'm going to use a mid-tone red, a bright red, and then I'm going to mix some red ink, Vallejo Game Color ink. I think those inks are the most forgiving. If you have not used inks, it just takes your pigment, your brightness, your pop, and takes it to the next level. Because inks are super highly pigmented. Okay, so if you just add some ink on there to your paint, it'll boost the color. Also, if you want to glaze with inks, and if you want to airbrush with inks, inks are not paint, so it doesn't really clog so much the nozzles when I use it through an airbrush. And the transitions, the transition. Plus it's transparent. So it's like, if you want to put in your values and grays and do your zenithal priming and then put some ink on top of that sucker, man, it's gonna look, so it's gonna retain all the shadows. It's gonna retain all the highlights. It's gonna be like, you could do all the like pre-shading. You could do all the pre-work. And then it's just, if you have not tried inks, I like Vallejo Game Color inks. They're inexpensive and they're very forgiving when it comes to starting inks. And then you can use FW inks. I like FW. Payne's Gray is my friend. But I use a lot of different FW inks as well. Liquitex has inks. You can use those as well. There's so many different kinds that you can use. Play around with inks if you have not played around with inks before. And of course I have white because I have like all these different color whites. So many. All right, so painting in some of the details, just using what's on my palette, just keeping that palette simple, using that blue number 3 from War Colors and using that Prussian blue just to tie it in because the lenses are there, so why not, right? While I'm waiting for that dot in the front to dry. All right, so here's what I do faces. Now, I did last week a whole video on just the faces, so I'm just going to breeze through this. If you're watching the whole video from start to finish and you want to use the guy with the lens and the thingy, you know, you want to use that, yeah, so this is how I do it. So, Troll Blood Base Rattler. And if you've seen this video, you can skip over, but I'm telling you, I'm going to go really through it pretty quickly. Next up is Underbelly Blue, and I'm going to send up the highlight that. Just going to go in from above, and it's going to create all the transitions for me. Look, from base coat to dynamic paint job in like 1, 2, let's see, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 seconds. There you go. 8 seconds. Look at the highlights. There you go. People overcomplicate these things. Next, I'm going to go in and paint the black in the eyes. You know, here's a steady hand. I pinch my pinky. Using the hand holes and stuff like that. I pinch my pinky. I go all kinds of stuff going on there. Then I'm gonna do some Flash Guts yellow. I do a super thick on this one because it's covering over black and the yellow is transparent. So I want it to pop. So there it is. Blop. All right. Again, just really, really thick. There it is. All right. Next up, I'm doing a little bit of white ink in there just to bring out the teeth because I'm insane. But aside from that, I just really wanted to be dynamic. I wanted to have the miniature to have some pop, so that's what I'm doing right there. But yeah, I have a full explanation of this on my Tau Faces video that I put in last week. Now I'm just glazing in using a little bit of ink. Again, watered down, really, really watered down. So this way I can do a nice little glaze, creating a glaze with that. And so I can get some red in the cheeks, you know, because I want to humanize in a way like rosy cheeks. Like we can identify it as humans with rosy cheeks. So I wanted to include that into the painting, into the miniature itself. So you can really relate to it. Oop, there it is. Whoop, there it is. And I continue. You can stop right there. Try it. If you have not tried it, try this out. And it took 8 seconds for you to build up the transitions. It doesn't take much just to try it. And if you mess it up, guess what? Just cover over it with the base and then do the zenithal again and then try it again. No harm, no foul. All right, I'm painting the white. Just got to paint the white over here for the antennae. And this was a really fun model to build. I've never built a tank with a Tau before, so this is another one. I do have another one that I build, but I don't know. I think I'm going to get different kind of pieces for it, like a gun rail or something like that. All right, so here is Mephiston Red. Again, keeping that limited color palette. This one thing that I've done in the Tau army that I'm building is I'm super limited with my color palette. It just really is. You got the grays, you got the whites, you got the blues, you got the reds. That's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. Putting the boop of gold there. Boop. Fun stuff. Fun stuff. All right, so building a lot of, well, Tau. Let's talk about Tau a little bit, right? So those of you who don't know, Tau has a bad reputation for being communist. Also has a bad reputation because it shoots other armies off the table and tables people in very few moves. It seems like people that play Tau, it's under a stigma that they're out to win at all costs. Got to put a little lighter red on the tip of the hair right there after putting the gold. And not the way I build my armies. You know, I build my armies because they're fun and whimsical. I don't build tournament lists. I just don't, because I'm never going to play in a tournament. I don't want to. So there's that. I play with my friends. I play, you know, locally, and that's all the fun I need, really. So I just build a whatever list. I don't really. I kind of paint what I think it looks cool, and for me, that's the hobby. So, you know, that's what I'm into. That is the gravy. So the Tau are these newly formed beings in 40k, and they're pretty much anime. There's anime in 40k. There it is. They kind of just want to make sure it's for the greater good that everybody is taken care of. And to me, they're like the kind of good guys. Although if you don't believe in their way, you know, they're going to kind of like make sure, do what's best for everybody. But still, it is 40k, and a lot of other factions are a lot more grim dark than that. You know, they pretty much are oppressive. But you know, I think they're fun and lighthearted, and I like the Tau for that reason right there. Plus, I've been collecting it for the last 4 years, and I've been so intimidated by painting white that, you know, I just shelved them. I shelved them forever, and that's not good. You should not be able to. You should not shelve your models. Not forever. I have shelves full of models because I've shelved many projects, but I am determined to get one army a year painted. So I believe in about 10 years or so, all this behind me will be gone. I'm on a 10-year plan. Okay. Amaranth blue now. Blue number 1. Going through that blue number 1. Just getting some more lenses going on there. Now this one is a little quicker form, so if you didn't like the whole wet blending thing, this is going to be a lot easier. Although, you know, I like doing 4 lenses on every single drone that I own because it's there, and I think it'd be kind of neat that if you look closer, you kind of see some cool lenses going on. So this is the way I do the quick lens. Now with the paint wet, I'm just going to go into the corner right there, go into the corner of all 4 of them, and you see it's pretty quick. Going the angle right there. So yeah, I love Tau. Tau is pretty cool. I do have a Space Wolves army. Check out my playlist if you want to see painting tutorials on the Space Wolves. So I have plenty of those, and some AOS models as well that I'm doing. So I try to do like an AOS army. I have Flesh Eater Courts and stuff. Grand Alliance Death, and a whole bunch of stuff. So I'm just doing the edges there for the lens. Let's get back to the lens. So I'm doing the edges there for the lens again with the lighter blue, just really quick and dirty. That's what I'm doing, and it kind of looks like a lens, and that's all I'm going for because, yeah, those for me. Look, meow meow. There's the lens. There we go. Sound effects included. Sandy. Now I'm going to do my bases. I do have a tutorial on my Sandy bases, aka Interactive Sandy. Desert sand is what I use for the Tau, and I'm kind of like, you know, plopping it on there, kind of covering it all, patting it down, and I'm using a sculpting tool. I like using sculpting tools because they're pretty precise at spreading stuff. So there you go. So it's a clay sculpting tool. All right. So quite easily, I am going to get some tufts from Worldwide Scenics. You can use Gamer's Grass or any other one, Luke Affordable Painting Service. Geeks Gaming, I think he's called now. Yeah, he has grass, and there's a whole bunch of grass that you can get. Just, you know, pre-made grass. Very simple, right? And some. All right, so I'm taking some pebbles from the ends of my driveway. I'm going to get the dust, and I'm going to put that in there as well. And then I'm going to get some natural leaf litter from Green Stuff World and throw that in there, and it's pretty much my base. It's very simple. I wanted to keep it simple because I'm doing an entire army, and I wanted it to be diverse enough that you get to see that going. Okay, I'm going to let that dry. I'm going to let it dry. I'm going to go back to Mechanic Standard Gray, and I'm going to do the guns for the gun drones for the gun ship, right? I did not glue the drones into the ship. Some people do, and some people get angry that they do. But I didn't do mine because they sit in there so well, and since they're going to be in a cabinet, I'm like, whatever. So I keep the bases on the side whenever they come off, and if I play the Tau, which I don't even have the codex yet, but when the new codex drops, I'm more than likely going to get that and then play them against my Space Wolves and see how they play. I think that's the safest bet. Yes, I have tables set up. I have 3 gaming tables set up in my basement, in my hobby area, so I can have little tournaments if I'd like to. So I can start a game and leave it because I don't have any cats or anything like that that's going to mess with it. And, you know, nobody's going to knock the table. So I can just play and see how an army plays out without like, oh my gosh, I'm going to forget a rule or something like that. No, I'm like, I'll play it this week and then turn 2 will be next week. I don't care. Whatever, right? I can take my time with it and really get to learn my army and all the abilities that they have. So I think it's going to be fun. I'm going to do a couple of mock games doing that. And then when I feel comfortable with it, I'm going to go to my gaming group and be like, I know how this army plays. There's no guesswork. Alrighty, so this is the one I chose, the larger stem. You may not want to do that. Ground it in there because you see the bobblehead. You see it? See it? See it? Yeah. Instantly, I was like, wow. Okay. Fun stuff. All right, getting on the side, I'm going to do, I'm not going to show you all the transfers that I use, but I do use some transfers here. And yeah, I like the Gundam transfers. Shout out to Hobby Hero, who actually helped me out by picking and suggesting that I use these transfers. And I think it's amazing. I mean, it's really game changing, and I really do appreciate you, buddy, if you're watching. All right. So yeah, so I did some of the Japanese symbols right there. It looks pretty cool and they're pretty matte. I use a whole bunch of different transfers from different places. I don't know if Games Workshop will be offended by it or not, but again, I play with my friends. I don't care. You know, I'm not obsessed with lists. All right, some matte varnish to cover up all of this because sometimes your decals, yeah, they're shiny, so you want to cut down the shine. And since there's not a whole bunch of gold on here, you can just go to town. If you do glue some matte varnish over the gold, just make sure to touch up the gold again, so this way you can bring the shine to the gold. All right, next up is the base, and this is the last of the process. Here is the base, so I just wanted to do that. And I like to do the rims, even the little itty bitty bases on the gun drones. I'm doing the rims on that as well. So here are the final pictures. All right, so there it is, all done up. I think it came out really great. Kind of new out of the shop. I love the look of it. I have so much fun with this army. I have so much fun painting this army, and there's more to come. There's more to come. This first transport, I have another transport to go, so a lot of fun there. Put some shield drones in there too, just to have some fun. Really fun army to paint up. I love it. All right. We're back. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't and hit the bell notification so you can get the next upload if you're interested in seeing more Tau content. Now, as far as the Rain in Hell series, we're going to have a surprise, hopefully by next week. We'll see that. I'm going to announce the winner of the Rain in Hell competition I have. Go check out Game 2 of Rain in Hell so you can join in that competition and you can win the game Rain in Hell so you can play for yourself. Well, I want to thank you. I want to thank my Patreon subscribers, Emily Yasesko and Mike McBroom, who support me monthly. Thank you so much. It really does help me get the programs that I need to edit videos and to produce things here. So I really do appreciate that. You keep the channel running. I do have an Instagram page at the Miniatures Paintbrush if you want to check out my work there. And I have a Facebook group. I like the Facebook group because you can share your works in progress, your finished models. I usually comment on every single person who posts in there. It's a small, nice little group that you can show off your work. And I'd love to see your work. It'd be amazing. All right. So finally, if you really do like this video, please share it with other people you think would like it as well. I would love to get the word out about the TMP, that's the Miniatures Paintbrush, and grow the channel. And sharing is the nicest thing you can do to help me grow the channel. And finally, if you like this video, like, share, comment, and subscribe, and we'll catch you next time on the Miniatures Paintbrush.